What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon jumping back into some more previews for Six Nations Round 1. We've already done France versus Wales is already up on the channel. You can go check that one out after this one if you haven't already. This one, though, Ireland versus England. What a game. I'm looking forward to this one because the team announcements... England announced their team really early this week. It came out on like Tuesday. They did the Springbok thing where they announced their team really early. Hopefully a sign of confidence. You know, that's what you want to be going out with, as opposed to we have no other options, so let's just chuck the team out there. Hopefully a sign of confidence. Few mind games going on in the world of rugby. I always enjoy that. Ireland, I've already quickly seen the team. It's a stacked team, and I'm really looking forward to getting in talking about some of the players, some of the choice and what have you. But this was a fixture last year that completely tripped me up. This one I had down in my predictions last year as Ireland favourites, Ireland winning this one. Ireland Grand Slam. I had it all down in my predictions. This was probably the game that took me back the most. And I know going into this one, Ireland won't be having any underestimations about this game. They'll know that England will absolutely come for this one. I've been watching the Six Nations Full Contact series as well. And hearing some of those, you know, interviews behind the scenes of what Ireland were thinking going into that game, what England were thinking going into that game, and, you know, where it was at half-time towards that final result. Very, very interesting stuff. I'm really looking forward to this matchup. First of all, then, let's take a look at the Ireland team that's been thrown out there for this game. Now, I've seen a couple of comments already. The team's only been out like an hour or so. But I've already seen a couple of comments basically saying it's not Ireland versus England, it is Leinster versus England. And you can kind of see where people have come from. There's 11 players in the starting team, I think it is, that are from Leinster going up against England. Some people really don't like this, which is interesting. I'm quite on the fence about, you know, how people design their teams and what have you. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion on stuff. For me, I don't really see a problem with picking a lot of players from a single club level team who play together week in, week out. Cohesion between players will be much better. They run some similar loops maybe to what they do in Leinster when you're sort of doing your attacking plays. You know, looking at certain positions like your front row, your backs want to be organised as if they're playing together week in, week out. If honest, I think it's probably a strength. But if you're not a Leinster supporter and you're, you know, maybe a Munster supporter, an Ulster supporter, you're like, man, I wish more of our guys were getting in there. I kind of see it from that perspective. But overall, I think it's probably a positive for the Ireland team, right? Who last year had the results. You know, I went back through and had a look at them. They beat Australia, Fiji, Argentina. They did lose to New Zealand, beat South Africa by that 1 point, and lost to South Africa right at the start of the July internationals. But in the Six Nations, you know, results going their way as well. There are a few games across the year for me where I don't think Ireland lived up to what I was expecting from them. There's such a talented squad of Irish players, and there were a couple of games last year that, even though they got the results, they got the score, and eventually that's the only thing that really matters. There were a couple of games where I thought, this performance isn't quite what I'm expecting from this Ireland team. I'm expecting a bit more, but they get the results. So if you say that in a video, people get mad. You know, oh, it's the only thing you need is the win, and you know, fair enough, it is. But I'm hoping going into the Six Nations, there's that extra little bit of connection, and they really become the you know, a frightening Ireland team, because they've certainly loaded up. But let's run through the team and take a look. So Porter Keller, Finlay Bealham, Dan Sheehan on the bench, which was expected for me. I've already seen people kicking off about that. He's been back in for like 6 weeks, or I can't remember what it was now. He went out with his big injuries, come back in. He's a talented player, but, you know, bring him on from the bench, wait for that impact, give him 20 minutes in this game, 30 minutes in this game, and, you know, maybe he goes on to start next week. Porter Keller, Finlay Bealham, still a strong front row. They've also lost Tyke Furlong out to an injury as well. So a few dints there, but it's still a strong front row for Ireland. Lock department, James Ryan and Tyke Byrne going in there. I rate Tyke Byrne very highly. Seen some people very surprised to see him in the team, which is interesting. I've always thought of him as a very good lock. Joe McCarthy's out as well with his injury, so James Ryan back in, who is still one of those players for me that has a great game or becomes the penalty vacuum that suddenly starts going really against Ireland. Discipline, you know, all important in these types of fixtures. And if you're an Ireland fan, you'll remember the game from last year. It comes down to those fine score margins. Being able to, you know, alleviate penalties and stuff is a big thing against England, who'll just look to take the threes all day long if they become available. Back row, Ryan Baird going in alongside of Josh van der Fleer and Caelan Doris is a big stacked back row. Ryan Baird moving into the six. Tyke Byrne can also play six if they need him to, but I'm sure Ryan Baird will have a good crack at that. They've got Jack Conan on the bench who can do 6 or 8, but with Doris being captain, I'm expecting Caelan Doris to stay on for the full game and Jack Conan maybe go on it at 6, or maybe comes on at 8 and Caelan Doris will slide into that 6-2. A lot of coverage in the back row is, really, really good for this Ireland team. Halfback partnership, James Gibson Park, is your boy you want in there at the scrum half. Sam Prendergast getting the nod ahead of Jack Crowley, which I saw coming. I've been seeing the Mad Dragon Rugby 25 Six Nations series. We've got Sam Prendergast next. I saw this coming, and I think it's caught a few people out surprised. Jack Crowley's really not done a lot wrong. And so far I think he's been very, very good, and they're looking for who's going to step in with Sexton gone now. Sam Prendergast getting his nod now. Frawley, I don't know, I don't really think he had a fair shot at going for it, but again, that sort of cohesion as well coming over from the club level might be why they're looking at that and give him a big run out. Big game to get in with this England to kick off their series. Centre partnership, Bundy Aki and Gary Ringrose. Yep, they love this. We've seen that a million times by now, right? So we know exactly what those two boys are bringing. James Lowe, Mac Hansen, and Hugo Keenan filling out the back three. Nice to be seeing Mac Hansen back in. Now, a few people were surprised, again, a mission for Calvin Nash in there. Calvin Nash last year was one I got a lot of hate comments about. I don't know what people kicked off. Calvin Nash, didn't impress me that much across the Six Nations, but it wasn't his own fault. I really felt like Ireland didn't utilise him. I felt like we saw big chunks of that game where they just didn't get him the ball, and therefore, what can he do? What can he do if he doesn't have the ball? They really favoured James Lowe's wing, which is a tendency with Ireland, and I don't think enough teams catch on to it, how much James Lowe is a pivotal point in their attack plan. And if you actually swarm him and that right wing doesn't get used as much. So Calvin Nash, but being a mid, it feels maybe a bit unfair, because my understanding is he can have some really, really good form. Mac Hansen back in, it seems to be the Ireland first choice, though. Replacements, Dan Sheehan, Keane Healy, and Thomas Clarkson coming in there. Big old front row. It's a stacked bench across the side, to be fair. Ian Henderson, Jack Conan in there as well. Experience, apart from Clarkson maybe, but experience in caps, experience in knowledge, and being able to seal out a game. It's a pretty stacked bench there. And then in your backs, Conor Murray, Jack Crowley, and Robbie Henshaw, just to bring a different dynamic into the game. I don't think that's a bad idea, actually, to have this sort of partnership. James Gibson Park going up with Sam Prendergast is a nice of more caps versus less caps, and then second half, you get to bring on Conor Murray and Jack Crowley together as well. Slightly different tactic from a number 10 to someone like Jack Crowley, but Conor Murray just to maybe keep them under control, not play a little bit too wildly, have that sort of experienced head, and Robbie Henshaw for your backs coverage as well. Overall, it's a stacked Ireland team. They're taking this game very seriously, as you'd expect, considering what happened last year in this fixture. Really, really looking forward to see these Irish boys kick off. And we'll take a look at the England team. Different graphic, because they've not put it out on the Six Nations one. This team came out early and caught me by surprise, because I think for a lot of people, Ireland are going into this still as favourites. They're joint favourites for the Six Nations series with France in terms of your betting odds and stuff, if you have a look at them. But England came in early with this, and there's a few interesting choices along the way which we'll go for. They've also got their own injuries along the way, which is so there was no Ollie Slytone coming in, which was a shame, but we've got some changes along the way. Now, England last year, quickly before we move on to the actual team, were kind of the opposite of my thoughts on Ireland. Whereas with Ireland, I was like, this is a massive team, they're getting the results, but the performance isn't necessarily quite doing it for me. England were kind of the opposite, where there were some games where I thought, England have won this. There's no way they can lose this. They are playing brilliantly, and then lost and didn't get the results. And it was kind of that thing across the year for England, that they turned up with some good performances, but the results their way. We have the games against New Zealand. They lost by a point. So remember that one at the start of July. Then lost by 7 to New Zealand. Then they lost by 2 to New Zealand. They lost by 5 to Australia. They lost by 9 to South Africa, and they got a good win against Japan. But they turned up. They had a big old set of fixtures last year, and they did turn up against some of those big competitors, but just not doing enough to seal out those games and be able to take the win, which is where you see that game versus Ireland last year in the Six Nations. It was committed. Like, we have to get that final score. We have to go for the drop goal, something to seal out the game. And they're getting within narrow scores, but not quite doing enough to actually get the results on their end. But take a look at the team that they think is going to change that up for the Six Nations. Ellis Genge, Luke Cowan, Dickey, Will Stewart. for this front row. Jamie George, I think, went out with his injury, right? I'm trying to remember, and I've read a lot of rugby news in the last few days. Jamie George went out with his injury. Not a loss of a captain, because the captain has moved on now. Maro Itoje in the number 4 shirt's taken over captaincy for this Six Nations, so interesting to see how he'll get on with his temperament. My understanding is he's done captaincy before with under-20s and stuff, and been used to doing captaincy. The only thing that sometimes gets me about Maro Itoje is we've seen it plenty of times, right, with the celebrations that the England team do a lot. Ben Earl's another one. The over-dramatic celebrations, and it's a pumped game. It's an adrenaline game. I fully understand big turnovers at pivotal moments warrant a big celebration. There are a couple of random penalties on the halfway line that they celebrate like crazy. Maro Itoje now as captain, you expect a calmer influence, especially, engaging with the referee and stuff. And Maro Itoje is one of those players who does play on the very borderline of rules in a game of rugby, and he's very good at walking that line of being able to get away with some things that plenty of people complain about, a bit unscrupulous, but it's just within that letter of the law. He's just got himself in the right place. He's just doing enough to hold someone's shirt back. Those little things that he does get away with. Sometimes refs pick up on him, and those penalties begin to mount, and you kind of wish he'd just take his foot off the gas that little bit. But now you've got to be engaged with the ref. You've got to be able to talk to him. I'm looking forward to see how that dynamic will shift going into this game. In the back row, Tom Curry, Ben Curry, and Ben Earl. So we've got the twin Deleu. I've seen it on a couple of news articles, which I really liked. They do look identical, to be fair, as you expect with brothers. But Tom Curry and Ben Curry both going in there to fill out that back row. Ben Earl at the 8 shirt, who was immense last Six Nations. Even though England, not necessarily getting all the results they will have wanted across the year, I just think Ben Earl's just a really, really good number 8. So back row's pretty stacked. Tom Curry will be the one just to look out for with his various head injuries and stuff that he's sustained across last year. So hopefully going to be okay. Big old forward packs on both sides, so there are going to be some big collisions in this game. Halfback partnership, Alex Mitchell getting the nod at scrum half with Marcus Smith. So pace is what you want to be seeing there. Energy, excitement. Ireland have a really good, solid defence. We know England have been doing the thing with the blitz defence last year, and didn't work in every game. They've really tried to enforce fitness, speed, off the line, doing stuff on your own defence. Going fast all game will fatigue you out, but fast attack is a way that you can really begin to punish, like Ireland. You want to try and get that ball out quickly, speed at those ruck speeds, because Ireland are good at the breakdown. They love getting involved in the breakdown, slowing down the ball. Alex Mitchell's someone that will want to play quick. Marcus Smith, you want time on the ball for him to be able to work out what he's going to do and sort of orchestrate the team. I think it's a nice combination. I'm looking forward to see how it will pan out, but the forwards got to back him as well and give them the speed of ball to be able to get out quicker and be able to punish the Irish defence. Centre partnership, Henry Slade going in alongside Ollie Lawrence this weekend, which I'm looking forward to see how this will work out. The centre department for England's one that I've not quite bought into, of that they've got their centre combo. You look at Ireland and you say, Bundy Aki, Gary Ringrose. Yes, that's their centre combo. England still haven't quite had that for me. I'm glad to see Ollie Lawrence is still there. If I was Ollie Lawrence in this game, by the way, I'm hitting Sam Prendergast on every single carry of this ball, off any sort of set piece or off the sort of line-out stuff. You've got to send Ollie Lawrence up the 10 channel straight to Sam Prendergast and put him on the back foot and really try and punish that 10 angle is what I'd be going for. If you're Henry Slade, he's a good footballer as well. I wouldn't be adverse to the idea of looking for some chip kicks over the top, and again punish the sort of 10 angle and really try and put that against Ireland. But the centre partnership is still what I'm waiting to see click for me in this England team. I'm not sure whether it requires new players or new tactics. But I've not quite been set on it over the last year or so. And then back three, Caden Murley coming in alongside of Tommy Freeman, and Freddie Stewart returns to the fullback shirt. We've had the George Furbank era as well with the 15 shirt. Very interesting hearing about that on the Full Contact Netflix show. Freddie Stewart, I don't know, came across as quite angry at George Furbank for having his shirt and doing well. Maybe to be expected. They're all top competitors, right? But Freddie Stewart under that high ball. Ireland love a good kick. James Gibson Park good on a box kick, and I'm sure Ireland will want to play more expansively, get those kicks. James Lowe, left-footed, likes his exit clearances as well. Freddie Stewart in the backfield, good air coverage. I think is probably a good move. And then their replacements: Theo Dan, Finn Baxter, Joe Hayes. Is not the experience level of caps wise as you come to see with the Ireland front row. Certainly I think a better row for Ireland there for me. Rest of the placement forwards for them. Then we've got Ollie Chesham, Chandler Cunningham, South, and Tom Willis coming in. They've gone for the 6-2. Probably not a bad move, trying to look to play the muscle of Ireland. They love their breakdown work. You've got to keep on top of the breakdown playing, Alan. So I think that's a good move. Chandler Cunningham himself loves a good impact. I imagine he's coming on at 6 for Tom Curry later into that game. And then replacement backs for them, Harry Randall and Finn Smith. 2 youngsters coming on. Good energy at that halfback. This will be an interesting game to see about how England will cope with the speed versus the fatigue. This feels like an England team that will want to play fast. They'll want to really try and get that breakdown, and the boys in the halfback combos in both sets will want to get on the way quickly. But doing that all game can get very tiring towards the end and can catch you off guard. So predictions, score predictions, thoughts on the game. For me, that is a loaded Ireland team. The England team's actually looking really solid, to be fair. It's probably the best from what they've got with injury concerns and what have you. I'm still favouring that Ireland team. For me, they're also playing at home, and I think this game will be one that they are heavily focusing on the Six Nations to not let it trip up, what happened last year. Of course, you have Andy Farrell, Lions stuff now as well. That's also another sort of factor to go into it. I think lineouts could be a really good contest. I prefer the Ireland bench in terms of the players that are there. England have gone for the 6-2. Maybe that gives them a little bit more for the set piece later into the game than what Ireland are working with. But overall, for me, the bench is stronger for Ireland, so I'm expecting that second half performance to have probably a bigger impact from the Ireland team. I'm going to go for a score prediction on this one of an Ireland win. And I'm going to say, I'm not going to go too far out there. I'm going to go, I think it would be like a score and a bit is what I'm sort of foreseeing. I'm going to go for an Ireland by 8. That's going to be my score prediction. I always have to throw them in. I'll either be bang on or nowhere near. That's the only ways it can go. Let me know your score predictions down in the comment sections, guys. I always enjoy having to read through your thoughts on the teams and your own score predictions. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't already, make sure you are signed up to the fantasy for the official Six Nations ones. We actually hit the limit for players, so I had to get in contact with Six Nations and say, can we have more players? We've now had our pool extended to 1,000 players. It's going to be a chaotic one. Looking forward to it, so get yourselves signed up because you've all the teams are getting announced now. You can start picking your teams. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye bye.